that is InvestFest owes us nothing.
Bro.
I think that's how we start the episode. It just makes sense.
Man. Owes nut. So from Friday with Miss Business's presentation, like, you know, that was super dope and productive. But then Saturday and Sunday, bruh, pressure. A lot of pressure, bro.
Miss Business is cool. You know, I ran into her and I told her I'm doing taxes now. I've been on her webinars and whatnot for years. And she's like, yeah, the tax game will get you sooner or later. It'll call you in. And, you know, that's the mark of somebody who's a professional, someone who's abundant-minded. Like, I have never lost sleep out of somebody saying they're stepping in my lane for anything that I've ever done in my life.
Because the reality is, you know, we may be in the same lane, but we don't do the same thing. So,
yes,
like go ahead.
No, that part. We're in the same lane, but we don't do the same thing. That's so real. So many people just have a license to do whatever they do or a certificate, but they have no drive to have understanding of what lies underneath what they're doing, and then what lies around the corner to the edge of their capacity, and how to stitch all those things together to actually help your client. Right. Like, you should know significantly more than you need to do your daily JO in your business.
1,000%.
If you're operating at your 100% capacity of knowledge, you do not know enough. You better hit those books. You better get a mentor. You better get a course. You better go back to school. You better do something.
See, but people, a lot of folks just neglect to put that scale of investment into themselves. You know, they may know what to do and how to do it, but they don't understand the why behind it, which prevents them from really being able to master the intent. Because, you know, there's a lot of what's and how's out there, but just because something has been done a certain way for a period of time doesn't mean that it's the best way to do it. But if you don't understand the why and you're just kind of blindly following the what and how, then as someone that's supposed to be a professional, it deeply can cut against, you know, said credibility of individual.
I couldn't agree more. It to me, it shows someone who is looking at their business as a quick come up and not building a foundation to create a legacy on top of that. Because if you knew this is what you're going to be doing for the next 5 to 10, 15, 20 years, or you're going to do it until your finances are so stupid that it doesn't make sense for you to do it anymore, why wouldn't you invest in yourself? You know, it kind of makes me think about being around these super wealthy people. What do we know about the super wealthy? They hate paying taxes. Why do they hate paying taxes? They don't believe in the utilization of that tax money. So these people who won't invest in themselves, it's the same thing. They're like, well, I already know I'm going to be on to the next in a year or 2 years, or I'm going to go back to the dealership. I know how to sell cars. So they won't make that investment. But I can tell you time and time again, JB, there are some monumental clients I brought in just because I knew things that I only knew from being hungry. For example, I got one of my brokers in Des Moines, Iowa. He ends up meeting this big time real estate investor who's like, hey, I really want to get some stuff for my kids. get some basic life insurance stuff. We get on the phone. I'm like, I could do that, but anybody could do that for you. What if we could help you put your money in a place where you can grow tax-free and you could buy even more real estate and you could have the life insurance? He's like, how do you do that? We start going through it, and then he brings on his CFO. The CFO starts grilling me immediately. How are these products made? What's the cost ratio on it? Or is it on an options base, or is it an index that's purely fabricated? He's asking all these questions. I look at my broker, he's sweating. And I was like, oh, they're all on open-ended options that are bought in the S&P 500 at this ratio. And I just had the answer there. But the only reason I had the answer there was because I went to a conference for people who owned life insurance and hedge fund companies, and I got to learn the inner workings just to advance my own knowledge. And when I had the answers that quickly, I gave him the numbers. He said, yeah, those are good numbers. Do it. He hopped right smooth out the meeting. There was nothing else for him to ask.
Yeah. No, and that same thing exists with my clients as well. When we're talking about, the financial results that are being produced on their financial statements, namely their profit and loss. When we're looking at variations to what they're spending as a percentage of the revenue that they're generating on things like payroll or the supplies and materials that they use to produce and deliver the sales to their customers, is quite literally the same deal where, they may have been doing whatever it is that they do in their business since Moby Dick was a minnow and have all of the experience to boot. But that doesn't mean that those approaches were the best for the financial ambitions of the person that owns the business. They're looking at
it's not in alignment.
Diminished profit margins where, if they're spending 25% of their revenue on payroll, for example, and the next month that shoots up to 32%. And then we start talking about the processes that they have in their business that led to that 7% loss in profitability. Well, now we got to kind of start looking at how we're engaging with our staff, how we're assigning work assignments. So one of my clients, the industry that they operate in, it is just kind of standard protocol that 30 to 40% of the sales are paid in commission to the folks that are doing actually doing the service. My client bills their customer and then pays out 30 to 40% of what they make from that customer back out to the folks that are delivering the services that have been purchased. Well, to build in a 30 to 40% expense from the beginning before we even start talking about the supplies, the overhead. So like the rent for their, because they operate in a brick and mortar location. So before we even start talking about any of that insurance, any of the things that it takes to operate a business, 30 to 40% is already gone off rip. Right. So traditionally, that's how things have operated in their industry. But as a business owner, they have flexibility in how they want for their business to operate. So by adjusting the commission structure in a way in which the employees are compensated on an hourly basis and incentivized with, because there's so many ways to increase the production of a team that doesn't necessarily require financial compensation in their bank account, in their paycheck. Like, it's a lot of ways that you can go about doing that just with psychology and what gets people going. So like, we've built in this 30 to 40% off rip, just gone. And for what? Well, that's how our industry works. That ain't how your business has to work. Oh
I
man.
hear you. That's interesting. That's one of those points where, my whole background is sales. And for a lot of places that are considered a good gig, a good opportunity, a 30% commission on what you sell is pretty standard. Now, these guys will be smart and they're only paying commission off of a certain portion of the sale after they've recouped a certain amount of expenses, which makes sense because I would like the business to keep existing so I can keep making my commissions.
Right. Right. Right.
But you're right. We would always say recognition, babies cry for it, men die for it. Tapping into that psychology where you can make someone feel significant, relevant, and linked to something that's greater than what they are. Sometimes that can do so much more for a person than commission. Like I can tell you right now, I'm trying to hire some folks from, I wouldn't call them competitors because we're dominating them, but there are other players in the field and they're paying some of these people a third of what I pay them, 1/3. But the people feel so happy and so connected there that they refuse to look at another opportunity. And, kudos to that company for building that type of environment. I wish they would pay people better, but that's a whole different conversation where you're more loyal to an organization than you are to your own family and building your own wealth.
Right. Right. And I mean, to that point, that's why it was like so refreshing to be in attendance for Miss Business's presentation, because like she really touched on, briefly touching on all components of generally touching on the primary components of business strategy that are oftentimes neglected or overlooked altogether. So again, like bringing in InvestFest with that type of value is just absolutely nuts. But with that, when you think about all of the presenters, which presenters or presentations stood out to you the most?
Gosh, that's really tough. I think the presentation that had the heaviest impact on me was the investing in Dubai, because they were so matter of fact with the information. It was quick, simple, and easy. They're like, hey, you only need this amount of money. I know you think you need millions. 125,000, 250,000 places you can invest right now in Abu Dhabi. And they're like, you might not even need all that money. You just need to get approved for a loan to get that amount of money. What? Okay, that sounds simple. Yep, they just want to see 3 months of income. What? Most of the time, my interactions with real estate professionals are that they want to make themselves sound smart and they want to make themselves sound important. So all the energy is all on them. And I have a mentor who always says, a person all wrapped up in themselves makes one mighty small package. So how do we grow? By connecting to others and elevating them. That brother on stage just gave us game after game after game. Yep, you can buy it. Yeah. So believe it or not, the developer will take care of it for you. I was ready to fly home right then and there, sell a couple things, and be like, hey, JB, I invested in Abu Dhabi. So.
No, really. And I feel the same way about Dubai, but hearing about Ghana and a condo for 180 grand, and they're the way since they pay their rent 2 years up front, you know what I mean? So you looking at getting 35 racks as soon as you purchase the property? Like, bro, like what are we talking about, man?
It's cheating. Doesn't it feel like, this must be what it felt like for the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers in the 1920s. You're just looking around and you're like, people don't even know.
Yeah. And you know, that's the thing that I love about business, because when it's done right, you become your own bank. And in doing so, you know, when these types of opportunities present themselves, you literally can pull against the leverage that has been established through the business in order to expand the portfolio in all kinds of ways. So, you know, I'm already thinking about how, you know, Bullseye Consulting will have the leverage designed and fully built into it, so that, you know, I can go pull a line of credit, or I can just I can withdraw as a withdraw a distribution, or what have you, because
Yeah, or we get fancy and we set it up so you could take a distribution against your money, so that way you don't stop the forward momentum of that money. That is the ultra wealthy's favorite way. Once you've built up an asset, we are not going to stop that asset from accumulating more volume, more growth, more mass. So we are going to take incredibly intelligent ways to leverage against it so we can get another asset. And, you know, when I used to do a lot of stuff with Grant Cardone, 2014 to like 2020, did a lot of stuff with him. That was one of the biggest things that he wanted to pound into our heads. He's like, look, make as much money as possible with your day gig. Then you get a side hustle. Work that, turn that into a business. And with the money from both, invested in something, have the money growing while it's waiting, but invested in something. He loves real estate. So invested in something that is pretty assured to grow. And then once you've built that up pretty good and you got a drip of money coming from that, get one more investment off of it. So if you're going from the real estate drip, and then we decide to have a really, really good portfolio, if we have some investment grade life insurance, if we have a whole bunch of things, even certain types of gold and silver coins, we dump that money from the asset. And if that's giving us a drip, that's what they call your player pimping money. That's where you get to go crazy with it, because it is the result of growth from an asset that's feeding another asset. So that's where you buy your Lamborghini and your silly watch, and you got the house with more bathrooms than you got behinds. Like, that's where you do that sort of thing.
nah, see, so at least here in the United States, as I'm not familiar enough with how economies work in other countries, but the tax code in the United States is designed uniquely to benefit business owners. And
Yeah.
Again, that's why, when done the right way, owning a business is like one of the greatest assets that you can have, because of all of those leverage points that come along with it. Now, for a business owner that doesn't understand how those distributions can be taken out in a way that doesn't interrupt the growth of the company, as you were just describing, what does that look like?
Well, if we're talking about taking a distribution like a K1, there are plenty of recapture programs right now. That's what I've been going crazy telling people about. Tax recapture is back, 100% depreciation is back. That's where we can look at a business and we can say, you've paid this amount of taxes over the last 3 years, so we can go ahead and create a recapture program for you. Once you are accepted into the recapture program, we get to go back 2, maybe even 3 years. We get all that tax amount that should have came to you in the form of a credit, and we use that credit leveraged with something inside the program. And I'm speaking vague because I want to protect our students here at the asset class. You need professionals to walk you through this. So I'm not gatekeeping. We can totally have this conversation with your CPA, with my tax team, where we'll go through it. But trying to do it yourself is a great way to end up in an orange jumpsuit. And they don't season food like I like it in prison. So we're gonna miss that game. We're gonna miss that game. So once we've recaptured the taxes, this is where leverage is so key. People never think about leverage and taxes. When you become a business owner, your first thought is, okay, this thing is big enough where I can hire some folks and they can work hours, because I can only work 168 hours in a week, because that's all the hours in a week. But if I have 10 employees and they each put 30 hours in a week, that's 300 hours. I can never work that. That's the first form of leverage, right? The second form of leverage is leveraging money. The third is systems. So we never think about leveraging our taxes to take tax credits, put it into something where it's going to spit out more than it took in. You put $300,000 into something and it gives you $1 million in tax credits. So now you can grow your business and not pay taxes. And then that makes it so easy for someone like myself and my wealth team to take that money and we can place it in a whole bunch of different assets that a bank they absolutely salivate when you're like, hey, I'd like to take some leverage against, oh, we can do it right now. I can come over to your house. I can come to your office. Are you allergic to onions? Like, I'll bring you some food. They're ready for it because that's what they do all day long. They're looking for opportunities. And then with that money, that's where we go Ghana. That's where we go Abu Dhabi. We get a drip from there. We're good stewards with that money to put it into another asset. And then once it becomes big enough, that is our ridiculous, silly money where you can do whatever you want and you don't have to be silly with it. You could donate it all. You know, you could help people. I've met some really smart brothers and sisters that help people, Black people, move back to Africa. That's what they do with their extra money. Fire. So it's probably a good point for us to throw out some disclaimers right now. We are both licensed professionals, and this is solely for entertainment purposes. We highly advise you to reach out to a licensed professional, or you can do your own studious research. However, until you sign an LOI with myself or him or both of us, we are not your professional consultants.
You know, speaking about the resources overseas, because America has done a really great job of conditioning us as a population to think that the world ends outside of the borders of the United States. And it could not be no further from the truth. So during the China supply chain presentation, bro.
That was fire.
Bro, flying over there and arranging for an entire container to be delivered for anywhere between 8 and 15 grand, bro. Like the savings that comes from going straight to the Sam's Club of the world, like, what are we talking about?
You better coin that phrase. I love that. The Sam's Club of the world. You know, I think this time is really revealing how fabricated the cost of things are here. And when I say here, that also includes, you know, Western Europe, because we mirror so much of what they do and what they buy and how they dress. When we found out, you know, that gal's client wanted a very particular $35,000 couch, but it was going to take 30 weeks because these luxury brands love the illusion that you are buying them from Western Europe. And it's the finest of artisanal craftsmen that have been doing it for 9 generations. But really, it's made in China. And sometimes it's made in Africa. You know, that's why I don't know if you know this, brother, but you know, when we were growing up, everything would say Italian leather on it. And that's how you knew it was the coldest until it was discovered those hides were coming from Eastern Africa. So a judge said, you have to start labeling it as African leather, but instead of, you know, elevating and edifying Africa for their craftsmanship, they decided to just not put that on there anymore. So it'll say artisanal leather, Tuscan styled, and they got around it. But without digressing too far down the rabbit hole, it's absolutely phenomenal that you can get something that is $36,000 before shipping and handling. It takes 30 weeks to get to you. They say, hey, we actually make that here in China. We can make it for $5,000 and we can get it there in maybe 3 weeks. And it took 10 days. They got it there even faster.
But like, working in the spaces that we work in, we really understand how money works to a different degree and are able to leverage it accordingly. And thinking about how Ian has created a space where a large number of us are now being educated on ways to leverage the earnings that we make on a working a 9-to-5 to create true generational wealth that is unquestionable, that provides the ability to get that money working and producing more. Now, in the flow of, you know, how money works and how the economy kind of facilitates all of that, him mentioning how 2027 is projected to be a significant economic contraction. I know for myself, as I've been watching everything that's going on in the economy and just kind of understanding how things work generally, I've had a concern for a while now about when things were going to hit ahead, because it's like I'm not trained in macroeconomics, but I have functioning eyes and a functioning brain. So as I'm looking at everything that's been going on, where, you know, car repossessions are at all-time highs, foreclosures are going through the roof, credit card debt is the highest that it's ever been. In a lot of major cities, you can't even put housing and affordability in the same sentence credibly. So all of these things have been fermenting. And again, as someone with a functioning mind and set of eyes, you know, I'm like, yeah, it's going to come to a head at some point. But to hear Ian articulate that 2027 is supposed to be that year, what does preparation look like for your clients from your perspective?
Well, my clients, thankfully, they have our great team where they already have a nice balance of guaranteed accounts. So even if the stock market completely falls off a cliff, more than 40% of their money is going to be safe. And that can mean, you know, the contrary. When we're in the most bullish of bullish markets, my clients might not be making as much as someone who has all their money in something more risky. However, when we're playing with forever money, why would I risk it for the biscuit? You know, if I can guarantee my client, a lot of times, you know, we're doing 9.9, 9.8, 10% on an account. So it's not like they're doing anything sluggish. That's a really, really great return and is locked in every year. Versus you're doing 12s and 15s, but it's completely variable. So you don't even really have that money. A lot of times I like to tell people, you know, your money in the stock market is borrowed. You're renting it. And they don't like that. They're like, well, I own the share. And I was like, okay, can you control the price of the share? No, you can't. So that means you have to hedge that money. So one of the great things you can do is to heighten your savings. And I know it's the worst thing to say with interest rates being this high. The cost of insurance is so high. The cost of food is so high right now to tell people that they need to save more money. But you need to save more money. You need to put more money away, especially over these next 2 years. We only save money so that we can invest it in the future. We're not saving it just to save it. But we got to start off with saving some money if we want to grow that money. The next thing that you can do with whoever your advisor is, you can let them know, hey, I would like to capitalize on as much growth as I can over the next year. And then I want to completely change over and get into a safer situation for the next 2 years. How do we do that? What does that look like? I would like to negotiate my fees to see if you can lower your fee. Can you put me in an ETF instead of it just being a brokerage account? Because I don't know if I can afford, 2, 3, 3.5% to your brokerage if we're in a negative economy. And if that person won't work with you or they won't give you what you need, please call us. Call around. There are many great guys and gals in financial services that would love to help you. Don't ever feel like you have to stay stuck in a bad plan just because you've known this person 5 years or 50 years. You are responsible for your money at the end of the day, not the advisor. And they make you sign that when you open an account with them.
Man, so when I flew back in from InvestFest yesterday, I literally drove from the airport straight to a client meeting, and then I had 4 client meetings today. 2 of those 5 are trades-based companies. So having the internal capacity to be able to keep up, because you can't just shit out a quality technician that can deliver consistently. So it's a big challenge. My non-trades-based clients, we all, like today, those conversations were heavy on intentional sales funnel design to understand how much awareness must be generated to convert a new customer. Because in the market as it is, we're watching things just because I'm seeing it across multiple industries that the way that people are spending is changing. So if we understand that, then, and the reason that I separated the trades-based clients from my other clients is when your toilet is not working, you got to get a plumber. When
you're going to find that money.
Right. When you got an electrical issue, you're going to figure it out. When the rain is pouring through your roof into your house, you're going to
find someone to fix the roof.
So those businesses are going to be all right. These other businesses, though, are without having an intentional sales strategy in place so that awareness to brand is continuing to be generated, nurtured, and converted. What I fear the most for a lot of these businesses, small businesses, well, even bigger businesses, is they are not reading the tea leaves or the leading indicators that lets them know that there's going to be problems in the future that are going to be significant if you don't have the appropriate controls in place to understand, again, how much brand awareness needs to be generated in order to fully bring someone through a conversion cycle of them becoming a paying customer. The reason that that is so vitally critical right now is as folks are adjusting their spending practices when there is not an intentional process in place to continue generating new business, and we're just reliant upon the business that has already been built or the customer base that has already been built. As that customer base is that existing customer base is re-examining how they spend their money, there is a direct financial impact to businesses that are not planning and implementing in a way that's going to continue to generate new business, new customers, and not just being reliant upon the same things that they've done in the past to merely survive. Because if you are merely surviving right now, when 2027 comes,
game over. Game over. You're going to become very desperate. And how often are desperate people powerful? Not very often.
Yeah. The only time that desperate people really have any power is when they mobilize together to overthrow some shit. But
right,
minus that, it ain't.
Bro, no, like, you're not thinking with clarity. You know, there's a million one-off stories on YouTube. Oh, I was so desperate, and then that's when I thought I was going to write a movie. So I wrote a movie, and I sold my dog, and then after that they put me in the movie, and then I went and bought my dog, and then I turned into Rocky Balboa. Like, you know what I mean? There's the crazy stories like that.
Right.
But we don't live in the outliers. You know, we make sure we give our information within one standard deviation because we want to help the most people at once. And, you know, another thing we should probably talk about is credit and credit lines for these businesses and for people, you know, getting as much as you can over the next year. Like, I have a client, and I will be sending him your way pretty soon here because he's gotten a lot of his act cleaned up. And he's just ready to expand and take accountability. He was getting offered hundreds of thousands of dollars in business credit all the time. Different banks, institutions, hey, we'd love to give you this. Hey, we'd love to give you that. Because they could see his deposits of $70,000, $80,000 every month. He's always turning them down. No, I don't need that. Then the economy changes. Work slows down. You know, different political things happen. And now he's strapped for 50 grand. He needs 50 grand to keep his business going. So then he has to take out some not so sexy credit, like a merchant cash advance. And MCA people, don't come for me. There's a time and place for it, for sure. But if you can get approved for 0% APR business credit cards, that's superior to an MCA all day, every day. If you can get a business line of credit where it's 0% APR for the first 12 months or 18 months, that's superior to an MCA. So MCA is a merchant cash advance, and it is a ridiculously high rate. And it's one of the few things that's crazy that they let you do in New York. Because as you and I have talked about many times, New York doesn't want to let you make any money. Like, they don't let you know, like, I can't sell this renter's insurance there? Like, golly. So with the MCA, he ends up paying basically 50% interest back on the money. And then if that's not enough, you end up taking out another and another. And then you have people in these positions where they have to perform with that money or it's a wrap. Man. I think it's so much better to have money stored away, have money on the side, have investments, and to have a whole bunch of business credit, have lines of business, have your personal credit as a last resort, have your personal credit A1. So when things go left, you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 different pots to pull from.
And again, that is why owning a business, bro, because when appropriate and timely accounting is done, those financial reports, when they demonstrate that there's consistent cash flow happening within the business, the skies open up with capital opportunities, depending on the type of visibility that they're creating for their business. So, for example, with the client that you were just referencing, that's huge brand visibility to be depositing 70 grand every month into a bank account. The people that need to know that, yeah, right. And that's going to make that type of capital potentially available, given that financial reports are also available to reflect, how the cash flow is managed, so that, the return from the grantor of said capital is assured.
Right. And this is where we can start to look at the business making even more money investing. If you can run your business from credit, and you know that your new sales coming in more than cover the minimum, especially if we're talking about a 0% card, then all that other revenue that you're making, we can put it in something safe. We can put it in something tax-free or with very, very low taxes. And then we can grow all that money, 5, 6, 7, 9%. And we could do that every year. At the end of the year, or the end of the term on the card, we can pay the card down. That's totally fine. In business, they don't mind if you have high utilization. They actually get mad at you if you don't use enough. Then they want to take it back. Business credit's completely different than personal. Personal, you take out a bunch of stuff to take the family on a trip. Man, American Express is calling you, hey, is there a death in the family? What's going on, man? All this spending. You wasn't spending like this last November. They're ready to take your stuff away.
Right.
Or they'll just randomly close your card. I've had 3 or 4 people in my circle have that happen, where they made large payments on their cards, and those credit issuers took it away on the personal side. On the business side, it's a whole different game, just like you were saying. So a question for you, with all the experiences and all that you saw at InvestFest, how are you inspired to move differently, and what does differently look like for you?
So, talking about the power of access, I spent, it was $275 for general admission, so maximum $300 to get into InvestFest. My biggest takeaway, undeniably, is, again, the value of access, because with my $300 ticket, I had conversations with people that can fundamentally shift the trajectory of what I'm doing right now. One client, bringing one of these people on that I spoke to during InvestFest. Now, as I was talking to these folks, I'm talking to them about, it's interesting psychologically, where nowhere in my mind was I thinking about getting a picture or an autograph from any of these celebrities. My mindset was 100% on how I can provide these folks value, period.
So you're telling me you didn't want to do a TikTok dance with none of them?
So, like, I'm talking to them truly about providing them value. Like, I'm talking to them about putting more money into their pocket and also helping them to keep more in their pocket once it's in their pocket. Right? Like, value. Well, as I'm having these conversations with folks, there are lines of people that are waiting to get a picture. And, they asking for free game and all kinds of stuff, which that's a part of InvestFest too, to like get the game, right? But
sure, you were there with me when I got a lot of free games from that gentleman.
Yeah, no, that was fire, bro, fire. But that's a whole different calculation, because you weren't just asking for feedback. You had a constructive, value-driven conversation with that man. He saw a younger version of himself in you based on the questions that you asked, because the questions that you asked indicated the experience level that you have. You can't even ask certain questions if you don't know some shit. So I look at that as a whole different, that's not what I'm talking about when I'm referencing these people just looking for game. Like they don't know where to begin. And they're asking for, and again, InvestFest is for that, in a lot of ways. So that's, you know, I don't have nothing to say about that. But my point in referencing it all is the amount of time that I had to talk with these folks about business was greatly diminished because of it's 25,000 people in the event in total, and everybody want a picture or something from people that they feel that they could get something from them. The value of access, bro. So I got the text message from EYL and I'm about purchasing next year's tickets for 50% off. So I went to go look at where everything is priced at. And like I've already shared with you, general admission is not even an option next year because of what I just described. So I looked at the VIP ticket, and then there's also a platinum VIP ticket for 5 racks. So I was talking with my baby girl about this last night. And when I told her that the VIP ticket was $5,000, she was like, $5,000? Like, couldn't believe it, right? And I'm like, sweetheart, what I need for you to process this stuff, not how much that you're spending, but how much is coming back as a result of what you're spending. Because I know that the $5,000 that I spend on my platinum VIP ticket next year is definitely coming back multiple times over. So it's worth it for the access. Truly, that was the biggest takeaway.
My daughter is so fortunate to be able to have you there and have that conversation for her. Because when I was a young person, someone would have just been like, "You right, that's crazy. $5,000? Shoot, you know what rims I could get, you know?" And we start talking about depreciating assets instead of making a business. But the thing, man, I was getting so excited listening to you talk because you said something there that was a major bar. It was a Don DeMarco, like for real. You said you were there to talk business with them, and other people, their highest aspiration was to get a picture. And immediately my mind went, wow, that person thinks that their big come up is going to be from taking a picture with 2 Chainz or Steve Harvey or any of the Issa Rae, any of the elite people that were there taking a picture. Their friends know who that celebrity is. So they're like, "Oh, you doing something? Okay, I saw you with the celebrity." And then the money's going to come in. You and I both know that's not really how it works. You and I would rather do business with that person, make them money, save them money, and then have them turn around and post us on their IG and their platforms and to say, "Hey, this man right here, he saved me racks on top of racks, gave me some guidance, connected me with some good people. I cannot recommend their business more." And that's where the phenomenal amount of sales come in. Yep. So I was getting so excited. I was literally telling myself, like, shut up, hold it in. Let this man spit that fire.
On top of this weekend just being phenomenal on so many levels, it was more so like a reconnaissance mission for me. Because when I went to InvestFest, I've only been one other time. And when I went that other time, I was a W-2 employee. So
wow,
my perspective was different then. Even though I was consulting business owners and I was very business minded, it's different being a business owner, where like not only am I coaching my clients on scaling their businesses, but I'm simultaneously scaling my own. So in the process of doing that, you know, I gotta play all of the roles and really be, you know, good at them while building out the infrastructure so that my team in the future will be able to execute without me being there. So the approach was completely different when I'm in the room, because I know what I'm speaking to, because it's my shit. If I would have approached them when I was working for the firm that I was working for, that's a completely different situation, because the solution that I would have been talking to them about would have been a solution that I don't own, and I have a varying degree of influence in how it's all introduced and implemented, but it's not my shit. Whereas when I talk to everybody that I spoke to, I'm talking to them truly about how what I do directly impacts them, and there is no middleman, none of that. And you know, to the point that you just made, I'm not even looking to charge any of these people that I spoke to for the first 3 months, because I know what that means. Like, I already got cash flow, so I'm, you know, like, I know what that means. When they see what it is that gets delivered, the rooms that I get put in as a result of it is different. Again, access, man. That was the key freaking takeaway for me over the course of the entire weekend, because I knew that I had to go to InvestFest just on the basis of 25,000, but I know last year it was 20. So it's 20,000 people that's going to be there, that's like-minded, that's on their business shit, and really, well, the reality is, of the 25,000 people that were there, it's a very small percentage of people that are really doing shit, like really doing business at the scale that makes sense. You know, being in, you know, I refer to it as gym pop, takes away from being able to have those real conversations with the people that are doing real business.
Right. We would have been at VIP night instead of, like, I had a great time. You know, we went to a nice rooftop bar in Buckhead.
Yeah.
However, you know, we could have had great food and wine around multimillionaires. It could have been a life-changing.
Yeah. Earl, I have no doubt in my mind, if I were in one of those rooms, business would be different right now already. I have no doubt about it in my mind. But it's very challenging to be able to have that kind of substantial conversation when, you know, because as I'm looking, the person I'm talking to is looking as well, and they see the line of people waiting to get a picture. So how much time do I have to say what I'm saying? For us to really, not even me say what I'm saying, but for it to be a conversation. Because, you know, it takes the two-way engagement for them to truly understand that they have a problem that I have a solution for. I have no doubt.
Next year we platinum. Next year, it's just like, are we platinum or diamond platinum? So we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. The way I'm kind of looking at it too is like lifetime diamond platinum is $10,000.
Yeah, you're right.
Just going platinum is $5K.
The platinum VIP is $5K, and then there's like a regular VIP that I think is like $1,500.
Right.
Or $2,500, something like that.
I think it's $1,500 right now, but you know,
that lifetime. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Gets you that lifetime at the tippy top.
You're right. You are right. You are right, my brother. So
look, let's go hustle for that. So that's a tax write-off, and you know, I'll get you funded with a 0% APR business credit card, so you don't even got to use your own money on it.
See, that's why we really got to get out of this cycle of hustling to survive and move into the space of building to thrive with intention. Because in actually building an asset of value, the leverage is unmatched. Because again, I could not agree with you more when we start talking about that 10K. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, bro. Like, I know what's going to come back from what I'm going to, the opportunities that I'm able to create just from the value.
Right.
Yeah.
And also the value they give you is different. So the value accord is completely different, because when you are a platinum VIP, you get to go into the private investing rooms. So we talked about investing in Ghana. We talked about investing in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and we got the connects and we got the framework. We have to make the call. If we are platinum VIP, we're able to invest right then, right there, and our numbers might look a little different than everybody else's numbers.
A lot different.
And they're including the flight and the stay to go out there so you can see what you're investing in.
Did you see the pitch competition?
Yes.
Watching the brother and the sister that won, I'm like, man, because procrastination got the worst of me. I was going to put in an application for all that stuff, and with everything that I got going on with my clients and building the business and all that, it just, time ended up escaping me. But as I sat there and watched them get awarded their $125,000 grants for what it is that they're doing, and then John Hope Bryant awarded $30,000 to 4 people for the things they're doing in their businesses. So with that being the scale of investment last year, and I apologize for not getting back to you, bro, on the Magic Johnson piece. His speech was more fire. Don DeMarco, Ken, like all of that. Like,
he had the cannon.
He over-delivered, and he said he's coming back, and he's not even going to charge. I can only imagine what that's going to look like, because he watched all of the investment from the John Hope Bryants and the other gentleman. I think his name was Paul Krug or something like that.
Yep, that sounds just about right.
Watching that investment happen, I can't imagine Magic not having some kind of, because how excited that he was to say that he coming back and he not charging, and listening to Rashad speak about how Magic responded to being walked around upstairs in the executive area where they were watching the vendor market and, discussing how all of that was going. And Magic stepped back and was like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I just find it hard to believe that he's not going to be looking to invest in somebody or some people next year.
That's crazy, because you and I are some people.
Yeah.
I'm people.
Yeah.
You're people.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm going to apply to all of the things next year in a timely manner, just because, like, beyond even winning the money, that's a different kind of access, because you're having conversations with these people that other people are not, they don't have the opportunity to have. Access, like, hugely critical, man. Scaling. What impact do you think that deploying the National Guard into cities has on business?
Oh, man. I think if there's any way you want to speed up a recession or depression scenario, that's probably the best emulsifier you can do. Because whether people want to admit it or not, America is a melting pot, and a lot of our strongest businesses rely on people that are brown and black. And historically, we have always seen these people victimized. I've been hanging around my uncle and them too much. They like to make their words up. They say all words are made up. Stay woke, little homie. So we'll tap back into being serious. If we are putting that sort of pressure, we have National Guard, we have ICE agents getting $50,000 bonuses to sign up, and we have some of the most polarized, angry people dealing with children and dealing with the elderly. There is no way that this scenario doesn't hurt businesses, and we're already seeing different towns and counties. There's a town in Nebraska where they ran off all the migrant workers, and then immediately farming started going backwards. And now they're trying to fight ICE, saying, no, we want them back. We need them back. Our economy doesn't work. It's so wild that, you know, it has me like Robin Hood Men in Tights. Inconceivable that we are choosing to allow our government to do this at this point in time, to spend money on this cause when we have so many veterans that need help. There are children with empty bellies. There's infrastructure that needs to be made in cities so people can have clean drinking water. It's absurd.
And it just doesn't make sense. And I'm talking like cognitively or financially. It don't make sense. The fear that prevents folks from leaving their home to either go to work or to spend money is a real thing. Folks being snatched off the streets and thrown into unmarked vehicles. Bro, the fear is real. And the repercussions
and so is
on
the danger.
Yes. And the repercussions on business are real as well. I think you drop some bars there as well, as far as the most expedient way to get us into, and again, I don't know if recession is going to be quite what we see in 27. You know, I think it is going to be more toward a depression. But one of the fastest ways for us to get there, to your point, is all of this stuff. Is not good for business, man. I don't know how it can continue to happen, bro. Like I
think the most interesting thing I've seen this week was Fox News complaining about him as like Raggy, Relma, Raffney. I couldn't believe it. So there is starting to be less polarization. And I think, you know, a lot of this, man, we don't want to get demonetized, but it rhymes with Lepstein, you know, that whole case.
Yeah.
It has so many interesting points to it where someone who was in a maximum security prison is now on, you know, work arrest, and they're saying nothing ever happened and a whole bunch of parties were never involved. And all of the material facts and firsthand documents are fakes. You're just like, okay, so we're doing this thing again. It's like, hey, if we all lying, nobody's lying. So and the people aren't going for it. They're not. You know, so we're also at a nexus point where it's like when people say protect the children, that means all of the kids, the ones that aren't yours, the ones that don't look like you, and the ones that have been through trauma. So it means they're not functioning as we would want a child to function in our society. They're angry. They're lashing out. They might have a brain chemical disimbalance because they haven't had the right nutrition their entire life.
Right.
or maybe they were misdiagnosed by Big Pharma. There are so many layers and so many factors. So I'm a registered independent. So if people want to come for me, please do not. I don't care. I don't care. And most folks are not educated enough, nor do they have the emotional intelligence to have a real talk about this stuff like we are. But when people ask me about this kind of stuff, my easy answer is I move with empathy and I look for others that do the same. If you cannot carry empathy and you cannot show me that you can have perspective beyond what your current life is, I definitely lose a ton of respect for you. And I do not think you should be in a place of power. Like we said on the first episode, John C. Maxwell, if you're a person that can galvanize people to polarize folks, you may be a lot of things, but you're not a leader, because leaders bring people together, protect them, elevate them, and push them farther than they thought they would go in their best interest.
Bars.
We're getting it. I appreciate you, brother, for setting me up with the great questions today. InvestFest was legendary. I can't wait for us to have more people next year. I can't believe I hired someone at InvestFest. That was real. That's crazy. That's about fire. Excess.
Congratulations, man. That's fire. That's fire. Yo, so this is the part that be so interesting about having kids. If there are two people in the world that really could give two shits about President Obama's contributions to the world, it's going to be his two daughters. My baby girl, with all of the things I do, she don't have the lived experience to fully understand what's happening right now and some of the things that are being built. So on my way back from InvestFest, I was thinking about, because I'm going to have a setup in the vendor market as well. And I'm thinking about, like, man, I want to get my daughter in that. Like, I want to have her, you know what I'm saying, one of the people that's manning that booth. And, so I got to teach her some stuff in between now and then for her to be prepared for that. So then I'm like, she ain't going to want to come on her own. So if I bring one of her friends as well, and they in the hotel room and I'm in the hotel room, and, they run the play down there on the vendor market floor, like, it would just be, killer. But how do I convince my daughter to want to do something like that? Because, again, same thing. Like, my daughter, I'm just her dad. She don't understand all of the things that I do. And she really don't give a fuck. So, you speaking about being able to hire someone, I am beyond elated that she has already said that she is down to come out to InvestFest next year. We didn't talk about the vendor marketplace part yet, but she up for it to come, which was not something that I thought would be an easy feat. So
that's beautiful, brother. Everyone wants to pass on, generational wealth to their kids. And if you're a Christian, you know that a good man leaves his children's children an inheritance. But also, we can't just give the next generation the money that we didn't have. We have to give them the knowledge, the wisdom, and understanding that we didn't have, and the tools to decipher the world around them and the people in it. So I just applaud you on that. I like to say my brokers are my children. Sometimes they act like it, most definitely, but that is phenomenal. I just salute you on that.
I appreciate you, my brother.
Yo, it's amazing when you get to grow with someone.
Facts.
You're telling me, I'm like, yo, I did this and this. We just did some paperwork. I signed this person. It's going to look like this. We're going to start bringing in all these partners. You're like, that's amazing. And then I talk to you, you're like, I just talked to this guy. I was like, you talked to him? I got his number. We're about to do business. Shh. See, we're not clout chasers. Because I could
Right.
tell y'all whose phone number he got, and it's major. Everybody would know his name. But you'll find out when you see JB on his Instagram for helping both save and make him a ton of money. So,
Yeah.
what's the call to action on it? What's the call to action today?
Still in the theme of access. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect different results. One of the insane cycles that I see a lot of business owners fall into is penny pinching to the oomph degree. If your fist is ironclad tight and closed, there is no space for additional, when your hand is open like this, you can put some money on top of there. But when it's like that, you closing yourself off. So being intentional about seeking out the appropriate rooms to navigate, putting oneself in said room, and then being disciplined to get to it once in the room.
I can't agree with you more. I would challenge everyone watching this to make a list of 5 different types of people that could drastically help them with their business and their situation. And then they spend the next week seeking opportunities to meet that type of person. Whether that means you go to an STK and you hang around the bar, and if you're broke, hey, you could have ginger ales. They serve you there. If you don't drink, you could have ginger ales. You can go to the most elite networking groups in your city. You could join your Chamber of Commerce. You can join your Black Chamber of Commerce. There are so many ways for you to get plugged into people that are winning, and don't ever think that they don't want to teach you. They're dying to teach you. They just want somebody who's dedicated enough to take their knowledge and do something with it. And also, don't ever feel limited to think that somebody has to look like you to help you. If you're around the right folks with the right mindset, they're going to want to give you the game. And that's even if they're speaking to you in their 3rd or 4th language, they want to give it because they got it the same way.
Mic drop. Mic drop. This has been the Asset Class. I'm Jesse Bullock.
And I'm Earl Harden.